Welcome to Blizzcon 2010 StarCraft 2 Invitational, casted by Kessel, and this is sponsored by Blizzard because it is their BlizzCon, and we're going to have round 6 between, this is going to be a round 6 game between Dimaga, who's going to be spawning as Red Zerg at the right, and he's playing against WhiteRa, who is called DuckLoadRa now, and he is going to be spawning as the Teal Protoss on the left, and this is going to be on Metalopolis, and this is best out of 3 between these two players. These two players are very, very high level in the European circuit, and this is, of course, BlizzCon 2010. And since I'm not actually there, Blizzard did release a replay plaque for it, and I'll put a link of that under the description. This is one of the first couple games I'll probably cast. I'll probably cast the other games as well, but for now, this is the only game that I'm going to cast so far. So this is game 1, and it looks like Dimaga already floating that Overlord over to see where WhiteRa is, but he isn't going to be located. Meanwhile, WhiteRa is sending one of his probes over here, and I'm just going to call him WhiteRa because I'm so used to it. WhiteRa is sending one of his probes to scout, and he is going to be able to find Dimaga's base. Dimaga, meanwhile, has not built any spawning pool, any extractor, and he is saving up for that early hatchery. But WhiteRa is going to deny this. Another probe is coming down here to try and kill this probe. WhiteRa putting down one pylon to prevent that hatch from coming down. Dimaga now forced to get that spawning pool instead. WhiteRa also is getting that gateway relatively standard, and a refinery going up, or an extractor going up for Dimaga. WhiteRa is going to be able to scout out what's going on inside Dimaga's base, and he knows that extractor is there. He knows that spawning pool is there, and WhiteRa does have that pylon up, so Dimaga will not be able to expand for a while, at least until that spawning pool is up, and Dimaga is fully mining out of the gas right now. WhiteRa trying to harass a couple of these drones over here, but he is going to get double teamed by the probes, and the probe is trying to get away. He's coming back in, and he's going to try and do a little bit more scouting. A queen being pumped out, and 3 lings coming out for Dimaga, so he can get this annoying probe out and destroy this pylon. WhiteRa getting 1 cybernetics core to block off the ramp over here, and 1 zealot. Pretty standard play for WhiteRa. He loves the stalker, and he is getting that stalker as well. Warp gate also being researched, and he is getting another pylon over here. He does have a pylon over in the corner as well. And it looks like those lings finally able to destroy that probe over, or that pylon over here. The probe did get away, and it's still doing a bit of scouting duties to see if Dimaga put any expansions where he didn't know about it previously. Dimaga now getting his expansion over here on the right natural, and WhiteRa continuing to build stalkers, continuing to research warp gate, and getting another gateway as well. He is continuing pumping out probes as well, chrono boosting them, and Dimaga meanwhile getting those metabolic speed boost for the lings to get them those wings to make them go so fast. And it looks like WhiteRa's probe did get spotted, and it is trying to get away, and the speed is almost done. Will they be able to kill this probe? And oh man, it dies. And Dimaga now putting a couple lings at the xel'naga watchtower to see whatever is going on. Another gateway going up for WhiteRa, and he is continuing to chrono boost out the warp gate and getting more stalkers, and that warp gate just finishing, and he is changing all his gateways into warp gates, getting another pylon as well to keep himself on supply block. A solitary ling coming over here to try and scout out, but it dies to a couple of these stalkers, and another ling coming over here. No expansion for WhiteRa yet, and he also getting a couple sentries over here so he can block off the front. Pylon going up in front of the ramp to choke off a little bit of the front of the ramp, and now WhiteRa has that Nexus coming down, but there are a lot of zealots coming in, and will they be able to do damage? Oh, the zealots almost run in. WhiteRa trying to get more reinforcements. One of the stalkers do go down, but those sentries are going to be able to trap those lings, and WhiteRa coming out on top of that. Those sentries with those force fields really saved a lot of WhiteRa's stalkers and zealots. Forge coming down for WhiteRa, and it all looks like Lair Tech coming out for Dimaga. Dimaga already has 2 queens now, and he is getting a couple spine crawlers as well to defend his front over here. WhiteRa, meanwhile, is getting that forge. He does have 3 warp gates, and he isn't building any more units. A couple links coming over here to try and poke in. He's going to be able to see what's going on over here. WhiteRa putting on up more pylons, and WhiteRa is just waiting, trying to build a force strong enough to beat the lings over here. Dimaga, meanwhile, attacking that statue, but not taking it down yet. And WhiteRa getting a really early weapons upgrade over here, and he is getting more stalkers, and he does have those 5 sentries, and that's going to be able to protect his front at least. Those 2 lings are still continuing to walk around, and they are going to get taken out, and it looks like WhiteRa is going to start moving forward, scouting around with this force. Dimaga is continuing to build overlords, and he is getting a spire, and overseer also coming out. Another gateway being warped out for WhiteRa up in the front over here, and more stalkers are being built, and it looks like WhiteRa is just trying to chrono boost that weapons level 1 so you can get an early push over here on Dimaga. Dimaga does have both his refineries, both of his extractors out, yet he built a lot of spine crawlers up the front so he can defend and get as many mutas as possible. He is saving up that gas so he can build a lot of mutas. That spire is coming up, and it has been coming up for a while. No hidden tech, I don't believe. Let's see. Yeah, the spire is over in the back over here in the natural. Meanwhile, WhiteRa is moving a couple of his forces over here. He has a lot of stalkers, and he has a probe over here to probably put down a pylon so he can warp in reinforcements and continue pressure on Dimaga. Meanwhile, Dimaga, it does have a lot of spine crawlers in the front, so he's going to be good, and he's getting a lot of links as well, so he can help tide this fight. The first spine crawler does go down, but the lings are trying to come over here. A couple force fields going down, but Dimaga just has way too many spine crawlers for WhiteRa to handle. That probe just standing there. The pylon is finished, and he's continuing to warp out units. A changeling over here from Dimaga coming out from the overseer, and he's going to check and see if he can see anything. And WhiteRa does have, let's see, 5 warp gates, and he did get both his extractors. And an expansion going up at the top base over here for Dimaga, and it looks like the Mutalisks are out, and they're going to try and start harassing WhiteRa's base. One of the Mutas is flying a little bit behind, and those stalkers do get a couple shots at the Mutalisks, and now WhiteRa knows the trouble he might be in. He doesn't have Blink yet. He doesn't have a Templar Arc, or not Twilight Council, but WhiteRa managing to warp in a couple stalkers inside his base, so he's going to be good, and a couple mutas do get taken out. But this has forced WhiteRa to move all his units back, and the lings were able to take out that pylon over here. And a lot of lings getting built are still massed over here, and more Mutalisks are getting built as well. And it looks like an in-base hatchery is being built for Dimaga, so we'll see if he's going to continue macro or he's going to continue to harass him. WhiteRa trying to take out another of these pylons over here. 2 of the lings do get trapped by the force field, but the rest of them do get away. And the pylon barely survives. Will the Mutalisks come back to finish the job? No, they don't. They're going to run back. And WhiteRa is moving out his forces, getting more pylons all over the place, so he can warp in reinforcements really fast. And he is getting it at the high ground over at the high yield, so it looks like he is going to get an Nexus over here. The Mutalisks trying to do some damage, but they're going to get taken out. And it looks like Dimaga only has that one muta with 1 HP. Oh man, but there are still a lot of mutas for Dimaga being warped out, and that second hatchery is going to help. Another expansion going down at the bottom for Dimaga. And it looks like the Lings are trying to come in and try and take out that Nexus, but the Stalkers over here are going to be able to push them away. Photon Cannon also going up for WhiteRa over at the high yield. And the Mutas are kind of just patrolling all over the place. And the Lings are kind of just sitting there on the xel'naga watchtower so he can spot where WhiteRa's army is. And WhiteRa is a very Stalker heavy army. And Dimaga has the right unit composition. A lot of Lings and a lot of Mutas can really change the tide of battle. And another Photon Cannon going up at the high yield. WhiteRa really wants to secure this, and it looks like a battle going up over here. A lot of Zealots and a lot of Stalkers are getting out, and the Zerglings are coming to reinforce, and they manage to take out this force. But now WhiteRa is moving out the rest of his Stalker and Sentry force, and they're going to start moving up the ramp. But there is still a lot of Lings over here, and there are a lot of Mutas. WhiteRa starting to push in, and that Spine Crawler does get taken out. Dimaga continuing to try and take out that hatchery, and now the Lings are coming in, and they're going to start attacking those Stalkers. The Mutas are doing so much damage to the Stalkers, and oh man, the Lings are taking the brunt of the damage, and more Lings coming up from behind. A couple force fields to block off those Lings, but WhiteRa is losing a lot of Stalkers, and oh man, the Stalker army is getting completely annihilated by this Ling Mutalist combination, and the hatchery actually stands. WhiteRa is really behind now, and he is flustered, and he's trying to get as many units out as possible. He has a lot of Stalkers. He does have Blink now. A Muta does go down, but those Lings are coming in, and oh man, there is a lot of Lings that get surrounded on a couple Stalkers, and WhiteRa forced to move out his probes to try and defend. The Mutalists are taking out a lot of these units. The Photon Cannons are going down. Units are trying to get warped in, but those Lings and Mutalists are going to be able to clean up this force. And WhiteRa now in serious trouble for expanding to the high yield. I don't agree with he should have gone with a more Zealot heavy army. The Stalkers are good against those Mutalists, but he just needed a couple more Zealots to tide the battle and prevent those Lings from completely annihilating WhiteRa. WhiteRa now getting weapons level 2 and a Dark Shrine, but I don't really agree with the Dark Shrine. Probably a Stargate would have been better. And WhiteRa now in serious trouble. He has very little Stalkers left. He's getting as many of these units out as possible to try and tide this battle. But there are way too many Lings. And WhiteRa needs to move back. Will he be able to blink? But the Lings are moving back. And WhiteRa now in serious trouble. Dimaga just on 4 bases, and he is just mining. And WhiteRa is starting to get mined out of his main. And his natural is still healthy, but he just doesn't have enough units. And he has a lot of Chrono Boost saved up. He should use that on those Warp Gates so he can get more units. And those Lings are just walking in here and annihilating this force. And I think this is pretty much GG for WhiteRa. WhiteRa cannot fight this many Lings and Mutas, and WhiteRa does GG out. And that was a pretty good game. That was game 1. Game 1 goes to Dimaga. So this is going to go into game 2 between WhiteRa and Dimaga. So thank you for watching. Please subscribe at youtube.com/KesselGamer. That's KESL Gamer. And I will see you guys next time. Kessel signing out.